called Meet and Talk. And the podcast was designed to interview our executives and better communicate and more engagingly communicate what we were doing across the bank. So the podcast ended up taking off. I did it off the side of my desk for fun. And at one point, I looked at it and realized that I had 2,000 listens on one of my episodes. And I couldn't figure out how that happened because I was just I would do the podcast and then I would send it out to my friends. And I'd do another one and then I'd send it out to my friends. So I don't know how that one gained so much traction until I got a phone call from our CEO at the time, Renee Jones. He called me into his office. So I got a little nervous. I was like, "Hey, I'm Kristen." He's like, "I know who you are. I've been listening to your podcasts in my Uber, and this is the most innovative thing an employee has ever done at the bank, and I want you to keep going with it." So that was really all I needed to hear, which was continue, communicating, continue that human element and adding that into the bank. So I went on to develop an internal communications app that allowed our bankers to subscribe to different channels across the bank. I started producing video, and I essentially revolutionized how we communicated at M&T. All the while, during the pandemic, creating breakfast boards and arranging breakfast foods like charcuterie boards. So for those of you who may not know what a charcuterie board is, it's basically a beautiful snack tray. It's a bougie Lunchable. It includes all different meats and cheeses and fruits and all sorts of things like that. So I was building those during the pandemic, and every time I built one, I felt this ignition in my soul. So I kept doing it, kept doing it. And then eventually I had a very vivid dream that I carved the buffalo skyline out of cheese. I know, that's crazy, but I did. And then I did it. Then I carved the buffalo skyline out of cheese. And that ended up going viral. And I kept doing it, and it kept leading to what is now a brick and mortar in Larkinville. So I own almost like a bougie Chipotle. You can go into the restaurant and have a charcuterie board made to order in front of you. And we have a wine bar, we have a market, we have an academy for classes. And 2 years ago, I left corporate. So I went from M&T, I was there for 10 years, left corporate. Now I'm in cheese and have created a 6-figure business out of it. So all of that to say, like the thread throughout that whole journey has been this little entrepreneurial spirit, which is scrappiness, resourcefulness, and figuring out how to get that idea off the ground. So when it comes to that entrepreneurial spirit that I was talking about, whether you are, you want to go and work for a corporate organization or you want to start your own business, recognizing the gaps in the market is super important. So at the bank, as an example, I recognized that there was a communication gap. Nobody at the bank asked me if I could start this podcast and help improve communication. Nobody asked me that. I just saw that it was an issue and in my heart wanted to improve it. So I did. And I didn't ask anyone any permission to do so. I've also at my, like, while I was at the bank, because I was in internal communications and because I was able to interact with so many different people, I was able to build a really strong network. And building a network is so important, whether it's like a support system because you're going to be on your own and doing your own thing, or a support system within a major organization that can help you navigate the politics and navigate all of the chaos that kind of comes with a corporate organization. So with that network, I was able to leverage both ideas, whether it was the podcast or, quitting my job to open up a charcuterie shop. I was able to leverage that network in both scenarios. And I'm going to show you how now. So when you think about the people in your life, and I want you to do that right now, you have to segment them into 3 different groups. So if you think about your list of people around you, I want you to separate that list into objectors. So objectors are those people who poke holes in everything that you do. They're probably the most curmudgeon-y people that you have in your life. It could be your parent, it could be a spouse, it could be a best friend, it could be a coworker. Those are the people who, no matter what you tell them, they're going to tear it down. Okay. The second group of people I want you to think about are your supporters. So these are people that are going to safely assess your idea and provide some sort of constructive criticism. Maybe they connect you to the right person. Maybe they say, okay, you know what? This may not work, but how about this? They're like the creative problem solvers in your life. And then the third group is the hype crew. So I'm sure all of you have as many haters that you may have. You probably have some hype people in your life as well. And those are the people that you could call with any sort of crazy idea and they would say, yes, love it, let's go, and share it with the world. So right now, if you have a second, I'd like you to make a list of those three groups of people in your life. So make a list of your objectors, make a list of your supporters, and make a list of your hype people. Now, the biggest mistake that I think people make when they have an idea is they take it to who first? Like, what group of people out of these three would you normally take your idea to first? I'm just going to give you a second to think about that, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to take it to your hype crew first. So you're going to go to those people who always support you, who always have your back, and you're going to share the idea with them. And they are going to say, yes, let's go. Let's do it. That's great. Sounds good. And what happens is your balloon, your ego, all of that starts to really blow up. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You're really excited. You're ready to take this idea off the ground. And then what's going to happen is one of your objectors, so your parent, your friend, whoever it might be, they're going to come over and they're going to pop that balloon. And once they pop that balloon, your idea then dies on the vine, right? So my method, and what I would highly recommend that you do before you do anything when that idea pops into your head. So for me, it was the idea to start a podcast at the bank. Also the idea to quit my job and run a charcuterie shop, right? Both of those are kind of crazy. The first group that I took it to were the objectors. So what I want you to do is hold an objections clinic. So I want you to take that list of all the curmudgeon people in your life, and I want you to invite them over together if you can, or you can have one-on-ones with them. And I want you to encourage them to do the thing that they do best, which is tear down your idea. So you would sit them down, you would say, hey, I'm thinking about starting this podcast at the bank. What do you think of it? Poke every single hole you possibly can into this idea. Go. And sure enough, they might look at you a little funny, but then they'll start poking the holes, right? So for me with the podcast, it might have been, well, we don't have, the bankers aren't allowed to use their phone. So how are they going to listen to it? They don't have time in their day to listen to it. They have a job to do. They're not going to be able to listen to it. This is stupid. No one's going to listen to it, right? And I literally wrote down every single objection that this group gave to me. And then I said, thank you for your service. And then I moved on to the next group, which are the supporters. So once you have your list of objections first, then you're going to take that list and you're going to bring it to your supporters. Your supporters are then going to work with you on how to mitigate the objections. So you have to look at that list of objections and say, okay, how many of these are workable and how many of these will actually improve my idea for the better? And how many of these are just projections or just mean or aren't really going to help the cause? Because at the end of the day, you're still doing the idea, right? But doing it this way allows you to get those objections out of the way before you continue down the path. So once the objections are out of the way and you're now with your supporters, the supporters are helping you problem solve. They're connecting you with people and they're helping you refine your idea even further. So now maybe it's not just, for me, let's take the charcuterie route. It's not just arranging breakfast foods like charcuterie boards. It's what if you did some charcuterie classes? There's nothing like that in Buffalo. What if you started teaching people how to do it? And you might say, wow, okay, that's a really good idea. I think I'm gonna try it. And then from there, you take your idea to your hype crew. Your hype crew, those are the ones that are going to say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And they're going to start telling all their friends about what you're doing and why you're doing it. So I'm just going to pause there for a second because this is really important. And just to reiterate, when that idea pops out of your head, the first person you are going to tell is the most tear down, curmudgeoniest person in your life. Okay? Trust me on this. It's worked every single time. Because once you get those objections out of the way, then you are more likely to get that idea off the ground. I think we are sometimes our own worst enemies. We typically tear it down before anyone else can because we're afraid of rejection. But I'm telling you, if you embrace the objections and the rejection and and the tear down, if you embrace that, it'll make your idea better and fortify it and make it stronger so that you can execute on it. Okay. So the hard cheese, the adversity, embracing those mistakes. So I feel like there's been, as an entrepreneur or as somebody who has executed on a lot of these ideas and have turned my thoughts into action, I would say that there's a lot of things that come with the territory that sometimes prevent you from getting that idea off the ground. And the first one is failure and making mistakes. I think a lot of times some people may have imposter syndrome or may feel like they aren't qualified or aren't good enough to be able to take this idea forward. And I think that's complete BS. I feel like it requires a lot of internal work to really have like an open, honest, healthy relationship with yourself and a growth mindset so that you can take these mistakes and make them almost as like indications that you need to level up. So when I think about my career in charcuterie, I did not go to culinary school. I did not have a background in anything related to restaurants. I'm completely and utterly self taught. And I would say the same went for starting the podcast at the bank. I did have a degree in communication, but I had never edited a podcast before. I'd never written a script before. I'd never done any of that before. So a lot of the self teaching for me, I didn't go into it saying, oh, I'm going to fail because I don't know how to run a restaurant. I actually said, ooh, I can't wait to learn how to run a restaurant. So it's having this like open mentality that you don't have all the answers, that you don't really know what you're doing, and then looking for a way to level up and a way to teach yourself how to do that so that you can move forward. At the end of the year, last year, some of the things that I did was I actually listed out. So, sometimes when you see those, I think it's like an Instagram or a Spotify, whatever it might be, but a lot of people like to tout their accomplishments on social media. And one of the things that I actually like to do is tout my mistakes. So if you follow me on Instagram, it's at Meet and Eat Charcuterie. But at the end of the year, I actually do my top 5 mistakes throughout the year, and then I assess them. So I talk through them, and then I assess how I fixed it, and then I assess what I learned from that specific mistake. And my network and the people who follow me love this more than anything else because I think A, it's relatable. B, it teaches people to like, hey, these are the lessons learned that I've experienced so far. And I think it's really important for us to assess the mistakes that we make throughout our journey and make sure that we're getting the most out of them in order to continue and evolve and move forward. The next piece, the soft cheese, the emotion of being an entrepreneur. So, one of my biggest mottos is progress over perfection. I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough space to just dream. And when I say dream, I mean, think about what could be if you had all of the time, money, and resources. So just a quick story. As I was going through my career at M&T and doing charcuterie at the same time, so again, I was an executive at a bank while running a side hustle that was slowly becoming more than a side hustle. I'm also a mom. I have 2 kids. Um, I I'm always going. So I was always doing something. My day was always full. I was always super busy. When I was asked, the Larkin Development Group actually asked if I'd be interested in opening up a brick and mortar. They originally asked me if I would open up a deli or like a market, essentially. And at that point in time, my immediate reaction was no, because I'm not a deli. That's not what I do, right? I teach classes, I make these beautiful boards, but I'm not a deli. But instead of saying no and walking away, I said, no, but let me think about it. Let me dream for a minute here. Let me think. If I were to take charcuterie full time and I had all the money and resources in the world, what would I do? So I meditated and gave myself some space. I just blocked out all the people, gave myself about an hour, laid down, closed my eyes, and dreamt about what it might look like or what it might be. And the concept of my current brick and mortar came out. So it's this made to order charcuterie bar with a wine bar, a market, and an academy for classes, all with the mission of connecting experts to enthusiasts and bringing people together over beautiful food. Um, and once I took that out and put that on the table, like the rest was history. So my recommendation would be to give yourself some space and time and dedicate it to just dreaming, thinking, visualizing what your idea could become. I'm also very big on feeling your feelings and getting a good therapist and leaning on your support system. Um, a lot of people ask me how I do it. So at the time, like I said, I was an executive and doing a side hustle, getting divorced, and had 2 kids. So that was a lot, right? But having somebody to talk to and having a support system to kind of carry me through and leveraging my people and my network to do so was crucial. The next one, the meet the building blocks. So this is all about listening to customers and tapping into your resources. So when I first got started, let's just keep on the charcuterie track with charcuterie. Like I said, I was very self-taught. It all came from this dream that I had. So what I did was I started following other people who did charcuterie on Instagram, people that I wanted to be like, people that I wanted to emulate. They inspired me, and I got lots of different ideas like, oh, wow, this is a thing. This is something that's going on nationally, not just in Buffalo. I started asking for help and advice. I would go to different restaurant owners that I knew or that I didn't know. I would reach out to them directly and I would ask them for their feedback, ask them what sort of equipment that they used, ask them if they had any recommendations for me or any advice for me. I also allowed the idea to evolve and to change. So when I first started, I was arranging breakfast foods like charcuterie boards for my kids, and that has now evolved into a full-blown restaurant with meat and cheese and classes and wine and all this stuff. So I didn't set out to have this like perfect end state. I sort of just continued to um, be open to all the different opportunities of what the business could become and allowed it to do so. And then I also continued to engage my following. I have people who still come into the restaurant to this day and will introduce themselves to me and say, hey, I've been following you since 2020 and you've inspired me and I'm so happy that you're here and I can't wait to experience this. So I always tell people to nurture the customers and the following that they have, maybe even more so than going after new ones, because those people are the ones that care and they're the ones that are going to, continue to support and hype you up. And then the last thing I always ask people to before they start a business, before you bring your idea to your objectors, I want you to ask yourself, would you do this for free? Because I 100% would do this for free. And I jump out of bed every day thinking about it. If you're in it for the money, it's not sustainable, in my opinion, because the money is going to stress you out. It's not going to get you to jump out of bed. So I always ask people if they would do their thing for free every day, because that will give you the motivation to jump out of bed, whether the money is there or not. And then the last piece, the accompaniments and the beautiful things that I've learned along the way. So I always believe in community over competition. So my network not only includes, my family members, my followers on Instagram, but it's also the community and it's also competitors or people who are doing what I'm doing. I think viewing competitors as competitors is really toxic. But if you viewed it as community over competition, and really partner with the people who love the same things that you love. Like when I think about charcuterie, there's actually 18 other companies in Buffalo that do it. And everyone sort of does it differently. I've made it a point to befriend everybody from a very genuine place and to refer business over to them. So if I can't take something on, I'll send it to my next favorite charcuterie person in the area, because at the end of the day, we all love meats and cheeses and we all want our community to be served. There's plenty to go around. Buffalo is an incredibly supportive place. The more nurture those relationships, the better off you are. I also really encourage people to be very present and involved in their community around them. So when I went to Larkin, as an example, I just made it a point to get to know all the other business owners in the area and figure out different ways that we could collaborate and different ways that we could help and support each other. And then the last thing I'll say is give back. Giving back is really, really important to me. It's something that I do without thinking about, and maybe too much to some extent, because like I said, I would do this for free. But I found a way to turn even my charcuterie classes into fundraisers, to host fundraisers, and really just support the things that I care about and the people in the community that care about me. So I think if you go at it and approach entrepreneurship with a service mentality, you can't go wrong. And that's all I had. I think, again, I would do this for free in a heartbeat. I'd go back a million times and quit my job to do this. A lot of people do ask me, and I'll take questions shortly. So a lot of people do ask me about whether or not corporate was worth it and if you should just start your own business. So I'll just tell you a few things about that. So I feel like in the beginning, when I decided to go work at M&T Bank, my goal was money and benefits, and that's like the reality of living, right? Sometimes you just need the money, and I did that, but I found a way to leverage my strengths and sort of make it into something that would then carry me forward with this. I feel like if I wasn't at the bank, I never would have been able to carry this thing forward, because the bank taught me a few things. It taught me, first, it allowed me to build some incredible relationships. It also taught me some skills that I needed to have in order to make this successful. And then lastly, I would say it allowed me to have a financial cushion, before I took the leap into opening my own brick and mortar, because you don't make money right away when you're starting your own business. Sometimes it takes a while to become profitable, and you need some sort of safety net before you do that. So I also tell people, like, if you don't want to go to corporate right away, another thing I would suggest is going to a job that will pay you to do the thing that you're trying to create, or pay you to do something that will educate you. So if I could go back, I would work at a winery, I would work at a cheese shop, I'd work at Wegmans, I would work somewhere that would educate me and pay me, so that I could take those skills and move it over into the side hustle. Any thoughts or questions? I know that was a lot of information.
Friends, feel free to bring up a question or drop it in the chat, whichever you're more comfortable with, but we'd love to hear if you have any.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi.
Trying to prevent feedback. Okay. I think it was pretty insightful. I think when you went into like how I feel like for me it's kind of hard to go into like the wrongs or the negatives first. Like having people like tear down my product initially. So I was gonna say, how did you get accustomed to that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think just admitting that you have objectors and curmudgeony people in your life and really identifying who those people are, you can get a better, like a thicker skin around that. Because if it's a family member, like for me, okay, let's just take the charcuterie experience for a second. When I told my parents, now I'm 40 years old, but when I told my parents I was getting divorced and quitting my cushy corporate job to play with food, obviously they're going to have objections. But at the end of the day, their objections are coming from a place of love and a place of fear, right? And if you think about their lives, they're boomers and they're all about tradition, and they're all about all these other things. I think separating like the emotionalness of it is super important, because if you remember that you're going to do this idea whether they like it or not, which is really at the end of the day, like, I'm not looking for their approval or validation. I'm just looking to help make the idea better, and objections can help make your idea better, because if it's not them, then it's going to be somebody else that might object to what you're doing. So it's very uncomfortable at first, but I would say if you can separate the emotional component of who the people are and why they're telling you what they're telling you, and just look at it as a straight logic, objective thing, it'll make it much easier for you.
Thank you very much.
I think I saw something in the chat.
Yep. The question was, can you give some more information on the process of opening a brick and mortar shop?
Yeah. This was something that it was a labor of love. I think making sure that you have the right advisory team or support around you before you do this is super important. So the people in my advisory team, one was a restaurant owner that I really trusted, and somebody who had done this before. The second was a good real estate broker. So it was a commercial real estate broker who knows the area, knows the landlords, and could really give me some good inside information on whether or not this was a good deal. The third was a good relationship manager or banker. So you have to have a good, somebody who can help you with the financial and loan component. The fourth is the small business administration. So I actually went to Buff State before I did anything. They have a small business group that really sat me down and helped me with like cash flow projections, a business plan, like all of those things that I'm sure you're learning already. But at that point in time, I really had no idea about. So I would definitely look through like different free resources that are available to you to have like a small business advisor or somebody who can really help you with all the different steps along the way. And then I would say, like, even just the people who, or the different components that are involved in your business. So for me, it was like a point of sale, it was equipment, it was food. So even talking with all the different pieces and parts that make up the brick and mortar, they've seen like every part of the process. So when I started meeting with wholesale, food distributors, they even came to me and said, you need this, you should think about this, you should talk to this person. So I think going through first, just educating myself and surrounding myself with that advisory team. And then from there, having like our developer and our builder, they were really great in terms of, project management, design, all of those things. So it was just leaning on the people who knew what they were doing that helped me get it off the ground.
Awesome. Any additional questions from the group? Well, if not, just want to say, Kristen, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you sharing your knowledge background for it. This is really great. And once again, just thank you for your time this afternoon. And for our friends, please hope you join us again for next week as well. But otherwise, if you're in downtown, I would say swing by Meet and Eat Charcuterie and say hello.
Yeah, come and visit. We're at 799 Seneca Street. So we're on the corner of Seneca and Hydraulic. Also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Kristen Cronyn. And then connect with me on Instagram. It's at Meet and Eat Charcuterie and at meetandeatcharcuterie.com.
Awesome.
Thank
you
you
again. Really appreciate it.
Bye.